Hi, Chosen Family. It's Stephanie here, and I want to talk to you this morning a little bit more about the gang stalking and the targeting because I know that for those of you who aren't fully awake yet, this is a very terrifying and confusing experience. I don't feel like we have time in these end times to mince words, and so I would rather you leave with the truth than stay with a lie. So I want to explain to you, and I hope you'll consider and look back over the patterns of your life as to when this started and what the root cause is. As I explained in an earlier video, it has everything to do with what is inside of you that threatens to challenge the system and people around you. And I want to caution you to be very careful about the people that are around you. I have spoken with many chosen ones, and there tends to be a pattern. You will encounter a narcissist, which is a very politically correct word for someone who is under the influence of darker forces to varying degrees. It generally starts with a romantic relationship. Your next experience will be in the workplace. And then unfortunately, you will uncover relationships within your very own family that are not for your well-being. They are not for your betterment. And it is a painful and excruciating process to eliminate the people and the circumstances in your life that are seeking to harm, disrupt, and distract you. So there is a sense of urgency because the things in this world, the separation of the wheat and the tare, the light and the dark, is becoming more profound every day. And once you're fully awake, you will not be able to escape the knowledge of what is happening around you. And it is, as every sentence in the Bible is 100% accurate, but with much knowledge comes much grief, and that is much pain. It is certainly the case, because when you start to see things around you from a spiritual vantage point, and you recognize that the people around you are most likely not well-intentioned, are not operating from the same heart posture that you are, it is a very devastating revelation. And most people don't have the courage to look at these things in an honest way. I know for myself that there were people very close to me that I adored, that I started to recognize our interactions were draining and manipulating. People were manipulating my emotions. I had some time ago fled a perpetrator, like a high-ranking narcissist, and I thought that that was a kind of a unique circumstance, that this person was kind of uniquely evil. And it took me many years and a lot of self-exploration, a lot of prayer and therapy, because at the time I didn't recognize the spiritual nature of narcissism and gang stalking. I was looking at it from a purely carnal level. And there was a time in my life, the bulk of my life, where I thought that every human being kind of operated from the same standpoint that I did, that they were well-intentioned, had a good heart, and weren't trying to harm others. Like, in fact, I made mistakes, tons of them. I knew others made mistakes, but at their core, I believed people were good and they were just making bad choices. And as time has gone on and the spiritual warfare has become more intensified, I realized that that is actually the exception and not the rule. And it is, I will not lie to you, it is an extraordinarily painful process to take a look like behind the veil and to really look at, are these people around me? Are they supporting me? Are they encouraging me? Like, are their words seeking to discourage me and kind of make me small and place doubt in my mind? If anyone in your life is doing that, they are not operating from a position of wanting what's best for you. And you need to take a very hard look at that. If they seek, and even like the most, Satan disguises himself as an angel of light. So they might use pretty words. They might use words of affection, and they just love you, and they just think you're the greatest. And yet, underneath your interactions are this sense of this, like, kind of calling into question your decisions and your dreams and your goals and your ideas. And you walk away from these conversations feeling a little more uncertain than when you came, if that makes any sense. And you have this sense like, I feel kind of exposed, and I feel confused, like what I really felt passionate about. Now I'm kind of questioning. And if this is the experience every time you interact with this person, you really need to question their heart posture, their motives. And it is nothing short of horrifying, because it gets closer and closer and closer in your inner circle. It kind of starts out there. If you've escaped a harmful romantic relationship, you'll find it in the workplace, like I said, and then within your own family. And pretty soon, as you start to awaken as to who you really are, your experience will become one of, and it should be confirmation for you. So as you kind of step into your light and begin to understand who you are and to have confidence in that, what will then come against you is an orchestrated, coordinated attempt to isolate you, to smear your name, to assassinate your character. There will be rumors and gossip and whispers in your neighborhood, in your community, in your friend group. And you won't quite understand why the energy is shifting. Like, why is that person suddenly not talking to me? Why do I feel this sense of unease every time I'm around these people? Like, why are they gathering without me? And what is the deal? And then you start hearing whispers of betrayal. Like, well, I heard so-and-so said that you did or said such and such. And you're completely taken aback. Like, what? And not only is it untrue, but it is a betrayal of somebody who, to your face, was just, I love you, and let's go to have coffee, and you're just left kind of reeling, and pretty soon you curl up into an isolated existence because you're uncertain of the people around you. And if you move, or you get a new friend group, or you go to a different church, or whatever you do to escape that situation, you will find yourself in another one just like it. It might take a little while, but you'll find that wherever you transplanted yourself, you will have the same experience ultimately. People will start to distance themselves and whisper and betray you, and you're just like, what is going on here? And so I want to cut through all of that and hopefully save some people some time and some hurtful experiences by recognizing as early as you can that you are set apart, You are marked by God. We are a peculiar people, a royal priesthood. And this is not about superiority, by the way. This is not about being better than anyone else. It is about having a calling on your life and operating and maneuvering through this world in a way that is foreign to other people. And when people do not understand something, they fear it. And when they fear it, they try to tear it down. And that is, my friend, the root of what is happening to you and will continue to happen to you. Here's the good news. In that isolation, in that pain, and in that seeking to understand is actually where the miracle happens. This is where you will find answers, where you will find fulfillment, where you will find purpose. And this just occurred to me. I remember laying on my couch, sobbing, and telling God, I never wanted to be special or different. I just wanted to love my family, my children, my friends. Like, I could probably get choked up about it now. Like, that's all I really wanted, was to experience the love and connection with my children, especially. My parents are gone. My oldest son is even deceased. And I was adopted. So I don't have any family other than my children. And all I really wanted was to kind of bask in like love and happy experiences with my children and grandchildren. And so when I began to recognize what was happening, it was excruciating. And I didn't ask for this, or maybe I did before I came to the planet and don't remember it. That's a possibility. But in my carnal mind, in my walk on this earth to that point, I didn't ask to be set apart. And it was very difficult. But once you see, you can't unsee. And so you're left with a choice to either conform and to take what little crumbs that the people around you give you, because you'll notice they do that. They might flatter you. It's called hoovering. Flatter you with, hoovering meaning sucking you back in, with flattering words and promises to change, or a lack of accountability as to maybe you're just too sensitive. All these things that seek to confuse your mind and escape accountability for their actions. So you can either choose to remain for the little crumbs that come your way and those times that they give you of love and joy that kind of keep you coming back and hanging on. You can live for those crumbs, or you can choose to accept the reality of what's happening and step into the purpose and the calling that God has placed on your life. And it's not an easy choice, and I don't judge anyone for choosing to remain in their comfort zone. For me, it just didn't feel like an option. Like, I would have to shrink myself so small and accept narratives about me that are so uncomfortable that I just couldn't bring myself to do it. So, no judgment to anyone who wants to remain in the comfort and live for those crumbs. But I think it's very important that those of us who are choosing to step into our calling, who are bold enough to speak out in truth, we have got to unite. I mean, that is the only answer. We are very powerful on our own. I mean, I heard another content creator recently talk about being a spiritual assassin. And I love that because, God gave us And Jesus spoke about our authority over demons. He gave that to us. And I didn't really understand that. Like, I pictured kind of old school exorcism, like I had the power to cast out demons. I never tried that. But what it really is you'll find that once you are awake and once you have spiritual eyes to see, those same people who whispered behind your back and orchestrated campaigns to discredit and malign you, when you you don't even have to say anything. You're present, they fidget and fumble. And literally the other day, there was a young woman who had maligned me and was in a position where she had to own that. She was being held accountable by someone, and she was literally shaking as she had to admit that the things she had said and done weren't true. And I don't advise confronting anyone. This happened to be a circumstance where another individual was seeking to understand the truth behind the circumstances. And so I agreed to meet and talk about that. And I literally watched as this person shook, couldn't look me in the eye, and scurried away. And that is the authority that we possess over demons. It is the fear in their eyes, and their discomfort is very real. They do not know what to do with truth and authenticity and light. They really are like cockroaches when you turn on the light. And I'm not saying people are cockroaches, but you know how when you turn on a light, the cockroaches will flee? That's how it is with demons when you step into your authenticity and your light. They are not comfortable. All the lies and can only stand in the darkness. And when you bring light to the situation, it just dissipates. It's actually kind of funny to watch and quite miraculous. It's like a confirmation of God's like genius and power. And it can honestly be comical. If it weren't so hurtful that people are doing this, it's almost comical when God holds them accountable. And like I said, you don't even have to say anything. Like, you'll find these people avoid you. They will avoid your presence. They are that uncomfortable by your energy. Watch and see if I'm right. This is scriptural. God spoke about these things. Jesus experienced these things. It is written about prolifically. And I want to say that although being chosen has nothing to do with religion, it has nothing to do with what church you go to, it does have everything to do with spirituality. And so a lot of people talk about the universe, the source. Well, I can understand that. I choose to call it God the Father because that's what Jesus called it. But you are missing a key component and valuable lessons by not looking at the life of Jesus. He was chosen to come to this earth and fulfill a purpose. And although there are human hands that have taken human hands and hearts, and people that have taken scripture and spiritual principles and used them for purposes that were not intended, there are some core truths. And I know from my experience that when I have gone back and read scripture through the lens of being awake, it reads completely differently. And you can gain a tremendous amount of comfort, knowledge, wisdom, and you almost get this feeling of not being as alone, because the Bible is filled with story after story after story from Old Testament to New, of people who have gone through this. And you wouldn't think that would be the case thousands of years ago. But I tell you, it's no different. What David experienced, what Joseph experienced, what Mary experienced, what Elizabeth experienced, what Jesus experienced, there are some very common threads. They had to move in secret. They were people sought to harm them for no other reason than the calling on their life. And you can learn from them how they moved, how they operated, what they did for guidance and comfort. And then the amazing part is you can see the restoration and the miracles and the tremendous power that came out of their adversity and came out of their calling. Like, each one of the stories, it is genius and miraculous. And it's no different than yours or mine. So if you're not understanding why you're being targeted, it's not something you can put like logical words on, because logic and spirituality are two very different things. And I would argue today that the spiritual is much more tangible and real than the logical and the like five senses. I mean, the deeper you get, the more you will see. It's fascinating, and it's an exciting journey. But I just want to tell you that there are spiritual guidelines that dictate the extent to which they can harm you, but the battlefield is in your mind. Not that you're imagining it. It's in your mind, in the sense, the word fear is false evidence appearing real. That's what fear stands for. So the goal of these people is to keep you captive in your mind, locked in fear and doubt, distracted, drained, so that you can explore your gifts, your purpose, and your personal relationship with God. So that's really all I have for today. I'll check back in with you guys soon. I tend to do these videos when I get like this anxiety rising and feel that there's something that needs to be said. But I love you all. I hope you have a blessed day. And please, let's consider how we can best unite.